The Panasonic S1 II was a pretty big game changer for a lot of people, and now there's even the Nikon ZR costing half the price and have also very exciting features. How they're gonna both compare, even dynamic range, highlight roll-off, low light performance, colors and so on and so forth, you're gonna find out in this video coming up. You probably already know that by now, but hi guys, my name is Paul, I'm a German-based cinematographer here in Germany, and my channel is all about filmmaking, gear reviews, but also DaVinci Resolve tutorials. So if that's something that you're interested in, please subscribe, that really helps the channel. And also I highly invite you to come to the Creator Summit on 17th of January 2026. We will have all the camera brands there like Lumix, Nikon. They will even present their latest cameras, you can test it out. Even still we have the most exciting creators there as speakers covering various topics about filmmaking, photography and stuff like that. It's in German only, but we have loads of brands there: Sony, Canon, Nikon, Blackmagic. So I hope I didn't forget Canon, obviously, so I didn't forget one. So check the link out in the description to get your ticket. All right, let's talk cameras now, and the Nikon ZR is pretty interesting also for me as a red shooter. So I was really impressed by that. And let's start quickly with the body design. I think I'm gonna keep it short. In every regard, the Lumix S1 II is better. It's just a camera from the body with less compromises. The only thing where the Nikon ZR wins clearly is the big screen on the back, so that screen is great. But in every other aspect, I prefer the body size and everything of the S1 II. It's a different body design, so keep that in mind. So it's not directly a comparison. These are kind of different cameras, so to say. But overall, I prefer the S1 II in that regard. Also now let's talk quickly about the IBIS. And I was pretty excited when I was shooting with the Nikon ZR for the first time, shooting all handheld with an anamorphic lens. The footage turned out really great. So I was really excited how good this IBIS really is. So I also tested that against the S1 II. And here in a walking test at 35mm, you see that the S1 II is still better in that regard. So, but overall from the handheld shooting B-roll and so on and so forth, the ZR does a pretty great job, but I think still the S1 Mark II is still ahead in this game. Also quickly talking about autofocus, you might know that I'm not a huge autofocus guy, so I tested that very quickly, and from my testing they both worked really well. So I feel like both have the same autofocus experience, but I didn't test it too deep, to be honest. Also talking quickly about rolling shutter, I don't have the exact same numbers, but since both of them are sharing the exact same sensor, we have a pretty much the same experience. You see it here in my panning test, that's almost the same. I think from the numbers here it's close to 10 milliseconds, so it's really good. So the rolling shutter won't be an issue for either of these cameras. So here comes now the interesting part. Let's talk about colors for a second. And if we compare that setting here, we use the exact same lens every time and swapped it each time. And then we also used a full stop IR&D filter so that everything matches exactly. And we see here in this test that we are shooting that we have sunlight and we have shade and so on and so forth. So we have different lighting situations also inside and outside. And you see a repeating pattern over time that the S1 II looks a lot more magenta, whereas the ZR looks a little bit more greenish, so to say. And personally, from my experience, I like the ZR more. So the red color science is just really there, and I really liked it. And also I think if you look especially in the shots in the shade, my skin turns very reddish on the Lumix S1 II, whereas it still stays kind of neutral on the ZR. So both have their own looks. Neither of them is really bad, so to say. You can color grade how much you want them. That's not the issue here, but straight out of camera, I personally prefer the ZR, but still the Lumix S1 II has also great color science. So the low light performance was also a thing that really interested me, because on the S1 II I have a really great low light performance, so I was expecting the same from the ZR. and I wasn't disappointed. So both of them are really good when it comes to low light performance, and having kind of red color signs or a red image with high ISO is kind of weird for me, but the ZR does that. You can use it up to ISO 12,800. 25,600 is too noisy then, but ISO 12,800 would be the max. But every other aspect in the 5,000, the S1 II was clean at 60,400, the Nikon ZR was clean. So I think they both work really well in this regard, and low light shouldn't be an issue. Interestingly, when I switched to ProRes RAW on the Nikon ZR and using low light, testing the low light performance, I was seeing kind of a noise, flickering, dancing noise in the image. So didn't know what that means, but maybe that's just a fix that they can do via firmware. Both cameras are also really good when it comes to slow motion and high frame rates. The S1 II is still a little bit better because it does that with almost no crop, 4K 120. Both look great. I also tested here the second native ISO on both of them. And the ZR, since it's cropping into Super 35, still it's raw. You see a lot more noise because you're cropped into the sensor, and also due to the high ISO in that regard. But I think still you have to choose, either you want to have it close to full frame, then obviously the S1 II is better, or you want to have more color grade flexibility and color fidelity, then the ZR is better because it does that in RAW. So neither of them is bad in that regard. I think 4K 120 on both of them looks good, but obviously there are those things that you have to consider. All right, now we're coming to dynamic range, and in this case I was also pretty excited because also they use the exact same sensors, and I was doing, when I got the S1 II, my very first over and under exposure test, and there I was getting like 8.5, almost close to 9 stops of exposure latitude, which was mind-blowing to me. So I wanted to repeat this test now with ProRes RAW, being able to edit normally in DaVinci Resolve to see if there's any difference, because I was expecting when you go into underexposure that a lot more noise will be apparent there. And yes, it is obviously the case. So we are very good on both cameras if we overexpose to around 4.5 stops. So that's pretty much the same on both cameras. I think on the S1 II, in the highlights you have a little bit more wiggle room, at least from what I see. And on the underexposure it looks pretty much the same. So both of them are good to use until 3.5 stops under, and then the noise becomes so prominent that it's not usable anymore. But I think there's more to a camera than just the numbers and the over and under exposure test. So therefore I also do my highlight roll-off test to see how a camera really handles highlights. And I tried out different scenarios here with like a case of to see where is that reflection, and then I came up with the sheet which I pointed a straight light source in, and then closer to the camera I had my gray card. So all of these cameras have been exposed for middle gray, so that's equally. And then I just raised the exposure of the lamp to see when we are getting clipping. And on the S1 II as well as on the ZR we see clipping happening at 4%. So under that it pretty much looks the same, but looking at the 4% even in the log and then also in the Rec 709 with the exact conversion, I think I still see a little bit of a difference here, because the highlight roll-off on the ZR, which is using the red highlight roll-off, very soft, it looks a little bit smoother if we look at this edge here where it goes into normal exposure. So you see there's still a little bit of a difference, but not too much, I would say, but still I think it's a great result. And then I also checked the Dragon, of course, and it was not clipping even at 6%. So there's still a big difference between those cameras, but Still, overall, highlight roll-off, I slightly preferred it on the ZR, but it's also not bad on the S2, for example. So now it appears that everything on both of these cameras is great, right? So I also tested the codecs, because both of these cameras are jam-packed with different codecs. And on the Nikon ZR, you also have Nikon RAW, ProRes, and even H.265. And first of all, I was curious to see how is the color difference if you choose to shoot not in Red RAW or just then in H.265 or the other codecs when you're using N-Log then. And you see that the color is different to the Red RAW. And what I was also seeing, what kind of shocked me, was the detail loss that I had in H.265. If you look at my hoodie here, you can't barely make out any fabrics in there, so it has like little white spots of melange fabric in there, so it's not entirely red, but on the H.265 it looks like entirely red. So in the other codecs, especially in the 12-bit codecs, you can make out more of a difference. But that one was kind of shocking me, so I did another test in the studio to see if there's really a difference, and we can see a substantial difference if we go in H.265 on the Nikon ZR, that a lot of these detail here is just lost, it's just mushy, it's just like compressed, and we don't have that same problem on the S1 II. So in the end, what that means, you're basically restricted to using the ZR in Red RAW, which is what I would shoot primarily on, so that would be the main reason why I get this camera, and for many others as well. But if you want to shoot on a smaller file size, you don't have really an option here, I would say. So yeah, that's my final verdict on this one, and I even talked about audio that much, and still in that regard the ZR is better because it has 32-bit float internally. The Lumix has that with that audio extension thing, which I'm not a big fan of. And yeah, I think both of these cameras do great in terms of image quality. Personally, I prefer the red color science a little bit more, and therefore I think it's a great camera. But from the usability standpoint, from the handling, the S1 also has its features because it has a bigger body, more inputs and outputs and stuff like that, so it's easier to use in that regard. And also from the exposure tools that you have inside the camera, also the S1 II is better to that date. So I hope that Nikon will fix that in a firmware update, bringing false color in there and stuff like that. But overall, I'm pretty excited for that kind of money. They're really going into the market and want to get some new customers, and I think it's a lot of people will get that camera even as a B or C camera for their red cameras, or getting into kind of the red experience with that camera. So, and also from the battery performance, the ZR really impressed me. I didn't do exact same tests here, but I think from shooting experience, the ZR is a little bit better when it comes to battery performance to the S1 II, but it's a minor difference here, as all of these tests just showed. So I'm pretty interested. What is your result? Which camera do you prefer color-wise, and also from the other results that we got here? And you know that game, if you have any further questions, just drop them down in the comments below. Don't forget really to subscribe. That really helps the channel and helps me to make even more content. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next one. Stay safe. Cheers.